You know, we do have a great lineup for you tonight. I want to introduce someone. I want to thank him for coming and helping support Skagit Valley College athletics. One of the best defensive catchers in the game of baseball. Dan Wilson had a 14-year Major League career with the Cincinnati Reds and the Seattle Mariners. During his time in Seattle, Mr. Wilson played more games as catcher than any other player in Mariners history. 1,281, and is still ranked among the top 10 in several statistic categories. In 1990, Andy arrived in Seattle. They have been active supporters of programs that focus on children and youth. Thank you, Dan. They served on the board of the First Place School, a private nonprofit K-12 school for children facing homelessness or other trauma. They were co-chairs of 2012-2013 United Way of King County campaign, which raised $112.8 million. Wow. To help fund programs that assist individuals and families with basic needs, such as food and shelter, as well as investment in a variety of programs that strengthen our community. They have 4 children. I'm really thankful, Dan, for you coming to help support us. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a nice round of applause, Mr. Dan Wilson.
Thank you. What a pleasure to be here, and super excited. Had a great reception earlier and met the foundation, and it was a very special group, and a lot of great energy in the building tonight. So super excited to be here and be a part of it. I'm here really because a young man, Mitch Canham, is one of our managers in our organization, and Mitch knows Darren Westergaard and Coach Wells really well here, and he said, you know, we got this auction in October, would you ever be willing to speak? And so I said I would be happy to, and the reason is because Mitch is a guy that I can really stand behind. He's kind of a rising star. He's been a manager for the Mariners and the Mariners minor league organization for 2 years. He's gone to league championships both years. They won it this year in Modesto. And he's doing a great job. He's a natural at being a manager. And but really, what intrigues me the most about Mitch is what he does off the field. And Base by Pros and Lead are some organizations that he has started and really been a strong proponent of. And so it's really what he does off the field that makes me proud to be a friend of his. So anything I can do to support Mitch, I'm here. And he's in Hawaii right now. But we've been able to FaceTime him earlier and told him we were missing him here in the rain. So, but I'm really excited to be a part of this, and I hope we raise a lot of money for athletics here at Skagit Valley tonight. I love being on college campuses. We have 4 kids, 3 of which are in school right now, and I love going to visit them. I love being on campus because the college age is awesome. It's you know, you're so moldable as a kid when you're in college, and mentors and people that you look up to become so important. And as I reflect back on some of my years in college, I think of a lot of people that I looked up to and that really shaped me. I went to the University of Minnesota. I arrived on campus in the fall of 1987, and I went there for 3 years, and I signed professionally with Cincinnati originally, and then was traded over here to Seattle. And when I got done playing at my wife's urging, she said, you got to go back and finish. So in May of 2010, I walked across the stage in Minneapolis, University of Minnesota, got my degree. And it was really neat. I was lucky because I beat my kids to graduation at college. That was a good goal, but they got to be there and see me go across the stage and get my diploma, which was great. Although I did tell them none of them may wait till they're 40 to graduate, so let's hope that plays through. But, you know, my time at Minnesota really was meaningful to me. It shaped me in a lot of great ways, and there were 3, you know, sort of principles that I learned there that I thought especially the student athletes that are here tonight can really relate to. The first is a commitment to fundamentals. Okay, most of us in here are athletic, and I don't know if any of you have been through a Minnesota winter, but it's really, really cold up there. And you know, wind chills 30 below, 40 below are pretty common. And it's college, so you're walking. You don't have a car, although there wasn't a day where I didn't see somebody on a bike even when it was that cold. But it's really cold. In fact, we would shower after practice. We'd have a 10-minute walk. We'd put our stocking cap on, and our eyelashes and our hair was frozen by the time we got back to the dorm. So it's cold, okay? And so when you think about baseball and you think about that cold, you know, what can you really do in Minnesota for baseball in the winter? Thankfully, we had a great indoor facility. And what we did is we focused on the fundamentals. We did tons and tons of drill work. We did tons of catching drills, we did tons of hitting drills, and we drilled and we drilled and we drilled, and we got really, really good at the fundamentals. And I think for me, that built an incredible foundation for baseball. Anytime you watch these playoff games, it always comes down, the game always comes down to a play that if a guy had just done the fundamentals correctly, he would have made the play, and the game would have continued. Games are typically won and lost on the fundamentals. So the fundamentals and committing to them is so important. And I think that's important not only for sports, but when we talk about life. And I think for me, the fundamentals, as I look at it, are faith and family. Those are the two fundamentals that you can build your life on. And I think those are the things that really had an impact on me as I was becoming a young man in school. When we get away from our fundamentals, we get away from who we're created to be. So it's important to commit to those fundamentals, both on and off the field. The second thing that I learned, principle, was that we can't fold up our tents. Now you're probably thinking camping, but it has nothing to do with camping. It was my sophomore year, our team was struggling bad. I was struggling personally, the team was struggling, and our coach called a meeting and he said, we have two choices at this point. We were about 2/3 of the way through the season. He said, we can either fold up our tents and pack it in for the rest of the year, or, as he put it, we can grab our hard hats and our lunch pails and we can get to work. And that was something that really stuck with me. I think when we run into adversity, we can't run away from it. We've got to grab our hard hats, we've got to grab our lunch pails, and we've got to get after it. And that's exactly what we learned at that point in our season. And that's what we did. And things got better because we worked at it and we pushed ourselves. Adversity requires hard work. It's not something to shrink from. Instead, it's something we can grow from. And I think that was a principle that I learned so young, and it helped me through baseball. Baseball's a game of failure. There's no question about that. We fail 7 out of 10 times and we're a good player. But we can't shrink from that. And those are opportunities which we can grow. And I was grateful to get that lesson at a young age. The last thing I learned was that it's all about relationships. I talked about Mitch Canham and how he was shaped by the coaches, the baseball coaches here, and what a great young man he has become because of the mentorship that those guys have given him over the years. And much of it was the same for me in Minnesota with the coaches there. And I believe that life really happens in our relationships. It's like the biblical proverb says, is that as iron sharpens iron, so one man or woman sharpens another. That's what it means to be in a relationship. And as I look back at my career as a Mariner, this played out several times, over and over and over again. A lot of times I get asked about what I miss about playing the most, and the answer is really the relationships that you build over the years. You play 162 games, you play another 30 or so in spring training. That's almost 200 games a season. That's about 8 months straight where you spend almost every single day with a group of guys. You get to be like family. You get so close, and the relationships you build are incredible. And so I think of my first teammate, Rich Amaral. Some of you may remember Richie. He was a guy that I lockered with when I first got to Seattle, and at that point we still had roommates on the road, so I got to room with Rich, and he was just a quality guy. And one of the things I learned from him as I got to know him was that he spent eight or 9 years in the minor leagues before he had a chance to get to the big leagues. So I learned about perseverance from Rich. 8 or 9 years he toiled in the minor leagues and then was finally able to get a chance to play in the big leagues and stay in the big leagues for about 9 or 10 years. And the other thing I learned from Rich was that the opportunities that Major League Baseball gives you, you should be nothing but grateful for and never take anything for granted. And so as I had a great relationship with Rich, those are the things that I really took away from him, and what a gift that relationship with him was. The other thing that was great about Rich is he's a little practical too, because we were having kids about the same time. And I came to the ballpark one day and I looked a little tired. He said, "You look a little tired." I said, "My daughter was up all night and I didn't get a lot of sleep." He said, "You got to do what I do. Put the earplugs in before you go to bed." It worked. It didn't make my wife very happy, but it definitely does work. I think about Jamie Moyer. And my relationship with him taught me a lot. It taught me about preparation. Never have I played with a guy that was prepared more than Jamie. He had this little black book that he kept, and by the end of his career he had 3 or 4 because he would run out of room in one book and he'd have to start a new one. But he kept track of every hitter that he faced. And whether he was pitching or whether he was not pitching, he'd write his notes down in his black book about the hitters he was facing. He was unbelievable. I'll never forget a team meeting that we had. It was a pitcher's meeting. We were going over a lineup. And it was a new rookie that they had called up. And this is a true story. Nobody had any information on this kid yet because he was young. He was a rookie. Anybody know so-and-so? Anybody know so-and-so? Nobody knew. Everyone looked around at each other. Except for Jamie. Jamie said, "I think I pitched to his dad several years ago." And sure enough, he found the black book, and that's where we started. Wasn't quite the same scouting report as it turned out, but it was a good place to start. But he was prepared, and he was always getting better. He pitched till he was about 50 years old, and he kind of blossomed late in his career, but he continued to get better year after year after year. He would come to spring training, he'd say, "We're going to work on a knuckleball this year," or "We're going to work on a split finger this year." And finally I said, "Jamie, I'm going to have to start taking the glove off and put down 2 hands to start calling these signs. We've got so many pitches." But that's the way he was. He was always looking to find an edge to get better. What a great gift from that relationship. I think of Edgar Martinez, who will be in the Hall of Fame someday, and hopefully it's within the next couple of years. Edgar played the same organization for 22 years. From beginning to end, he stayed a Seattle Mariner. That's pretty incredible. Edgar and I had a chance to play together for 11 years. And to see that loyalty, that's what it taught me. That's what loyalty is. 22 years with the same organization. And now as a hitting coach, he continues to add to that. But what a loyal individual to an organization. And the other thing, that nobody worked harder than Edgar. Edgar was one of the most gifted players I've ever seen, but when you put gifts like that and talent together with hard work, you get something very special, and you get Edgar Martinez, and that's the kind of guy he is. And so I'm grateful for the gifts that he gave me in our relationship over the years. I think of Lou Piniella. Lou, exactly. Lou was my manager here for 9 years, and I had him for a brief stint in Cincinnati before coming over here. And my relationship with him, he taught me how to play hard every single day. Bring in your A game every single day. That's what he taught me. Respect the game by playing hard. And to take advantage of the opportunities that you're given. Lou gave me a chance here in Seattle, and I'm forever grateful for that opportunity. And that's what he taught me. When you're given an opportunity, you need to be ready. There are a lot of Lou Piniella stories. I'll just share one, because he was a very intense individual. He was very hard on catchers, by the way. But one of the things that we all saw in Lou was his temper from time to time. And one of the times that he came into the clubhouse after a game, we had not played well. And in the old Kingdom, we had the clubhouse and we had tables that were set up that had our post-game meals all spread out on there. And much like in the back, there was flames underneath those to keep the pots warm while we were getting undressed and getting ready to go. And he comes in one night and we didn't play well. And as managers used to do back in the day, they don't do it anymore, but he did what they call tip the spreads. He was so mad, he said, "You know, you guys aren't eating tonight," and he takes the tables and he tips them. But what happened was, is those little flames that were underneath, they kind of slid off the table into the boxes that were underneath the tables, and it happened to be a box of fan mail on one of the players, and we had ourselves a pretty good fire going before Lou could stop his temper tantrum. But what happened is Chris Bazio, who was one of our pitchers at the time, opened up the fridge and grabbed the first thing he could find, which was milk. And he took this milk and he doused the fire with the milk, but it got in the carpet and it soured, and by the next day our clubhouse smelled like you wouldn't believe. So sometimes Lou could get a little carried away, but he made you bring your A game every single day. And for that, I'm grateful for our relationship. And I think lastly, Jay Buhner. I played with Jay for 8 years. Jay, the bone, he's the man. He taught me what a great teammate was and what it meant to be a great teammate. Bone was great because, as I mentioned, Lou was pretty hard on catchers. And so I would hear from time to time, or maybe every night, exactly what he was thinking about what some of the pitches that we were calling. And there were times where it felt pretty lonely on the bench. But to have a guy like Jay Buhner, bald and all, come up to you and whisper in your ear, you know I still love you, don't you, buddy? Just to have that player, that peer, pick you up like that was incredible. And so I learned at that moment what it meant to be a good teammate, picking guys up when they're down. So I'm grateful for that from Jay. I'm grateful for my time in college because it taught me how to commit to the fundamentals, both on and off the field. It taught me that when times are tough, you got to grab your hard hats and your lunch pails and get to work. And it taught me the power of relationships. Relationships that changed me, and that we have the power to change other people through our relationships with them. As we look at wanting change in our country, in our world, in our lives, it's through relationships, one at a time, that we can do that. And we have to engage in relationships across cultural, ethnic, racial, socioeconomic divides. But those relationships are what it's all about. And I think that's what's so great about tonight, because tonight that's what we're here for. We're here to support relationship building for the next generation of athletes and students that come through here at Skagit Valley. We all will help support the programs that will help them learn the lessons that will prepare them for their sport and for life, just like I was prepared when I went to school. And more importantly, they will begin to build the relationships that they will have that will impact their lives forever. So for that, I say thanks to all of you for being a support tonight. And thanks to Skagit Valley for having us here tonight. And let's raise that money for this program. Thank you.
Commitment to fundamentals. Don't run away from adversity. It's all about relationships. Iron sharpens iron as one man or woman sharpens another, from Scripture. And the fourth one he mentioned was wear earplugs when your kid's sleeping. That's funny there. Yeah, you remember? Do you remember the '95 Seattle Mariners? What was the motto? Refuse to lose. Remember that? Yeah. And speaking of Edgar, remember that line shot? Game number 5 with New York and the Kingdom, that line shot in left field. And Joey Cora scored from, I think he was on second or third. Griffey was on first. He comes running around third and he gets in, he scores, wins the game. That was a great, that one game probably built Safeco Field. So we are about ready to rock.